Kenya Investment Authority was formed in the year 2004 to market Kenya as a preferred investment destination. 14 years down the line, what has the authority achieved? Is Kenya a preferred investment destination not only in the region but in the sub-Saharan Africa? Well, tonight on Inside Government, we are joined by Moses Ikiara Doctor. He's the managing director of KEINVEST. He's going to explain to us more about these plus more. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thanks, O'Brien.
Why do we need an authority to market Kenya as an investment destination?
Good question, O'Brien, and thanks for really having me here on this show. You know, many investors or people who have capital, private capital, they have close to 200 countries that they will be considering to put their investment in. So you need to compete. You need to show what you have as a country and what advantages you have of alternative destinations, so that you can be able to capture that investment. So if you really don't have sometimes if you don't have a proper institutional structure or assignment of responsibility on certain tasks, then the job doesn't get done. So that's why you need an authority to be able to put together all what Kenya has to offer to investors and what advantage the country has, and then you can be able to promote that to investors.
Yeah. There is a section, quarter of thinkers who believe that you don't actually need to market your country as an investment destination. What you just need to do is to lay the proper groundwork, put in place proper infrastructure. And they give an example like China. China doesn't need to come to the world to tell it to invest in China.
Yeah.
We already know there are opportunities there. Like Great Britain, they don't need to come knocking to investors' door, telling them, hey, look here, we have opportunities, investment opportunities back home. They have laid the groundwork. Why haven't we thought of pursuing this direction?
Yeah, actually, O'Brien, contrary to your thinking, China, UK, all these countries have investment promotion agencies, that they are able to really sell their country. Maybe they are not, because you don't see them as, or the tools they use are a bit different, you don't see them so visible, but they do. They have investment promotion agencies in their countries. Now, I think coming to your other part is true, because when you actually work on the fundamentals, then through the word of mouth, your marketing is done. And actually, people who do a lot of, who are experts in marketing, they say the word of mouth is the most powerful way of selling. For the last 2 decades at the least, you find the infrastructure is one of the sectors that receives a lot of funding from government. And you actually see now, debate has shifted quite a bit in our country. I remember when I was working in Kipra, we were always recommending that please do infrastructure. That's where you need to put the money. Now, I think many people no longer, they take infrastructure as a given. And we are saying now, can you start even now taking a bit of the money and putting it in the productive sectors, so that we can be able to really maximize the benefit we can get from the infrastructure that is already put on the ground.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges in facing Kenya as a preferred investment destination?
Okay, that's a good, but let me start with being positive.
We'll be coming to that.
Okay.
We'll be coming to
challenges first.
Yeah.
So, I think 6 years ago when I came to KEINVEST, and I was really looking at what is the most impeding constraint to growing private investment in our country. And so he said, hey, how do we look beautiful on the catwalk? He said, let's make business environment an important agenda at the highest level of government. And the cabinet committee was formed. KEPSA came in with also the quarterly presidential audit tables, where government is able to engage the private sector. We started, and now it's history. We have come from rank 136, 2014, to 61, and this year we expect to be among top 50. So that time, the challenge was the quality of the business environment. Because then the typical person will think Kenya is a crazy place to go. When you go there, there is corruption, nothing will get done, everything is not working, security, infrastructure, all that. If you ask me now, are we over with this? To a large extent, because now we are systematic. At least we have a very strong framework of identifying the challenges and another strong system of re-engineering and dealing with that problem. So this is something I can already predict that going forward you'll see us getting better and better as a country in terms of the rankings. If you ask me now, what is the most demanding constraint again, because I like focusing on one thing you can do to unlock the others. It is now our ability as a country to put on the table enough bankable and investor-ready projects. So we are a country very rich in opportunities because of Vision 2030. We have our whole 8 sectors now that are supposed to drive the economic agenda under Vision 2030. We started off with 6, but we ended blue economy and also the blue economy and oil and mining, and then on the big 4, there are also very many in those 4 areas, and also the enabling sectors like infrastructure and the related. So while we have so many opportunities, if an investor comes and they say, I want an opportunity where I can come in tomorrow without having to say, I need this approval, or I need this to be done, or this road has to be built, or so we don't have enough investor in the projects that somebody can come in.
That is the missing link.
That's the missing link, because we have investors who love this country. They are knocking every day. They are saying, where can I invest? Can I come tomorrow?
It's true. I mean, when you look at the kind of investment that the country has done in terms of improving its software, I mean, it's tremendous, definitely. But does this translate when it goes to the hardware now? When you go to the ground, the kind of investment that we have done on the soft side, is it translated on the hard part?
I think I would say to a large extent, one of the key things why some countries have defeated us is that in some of those countries, if an investor comes to a country and he says, I want to invest in a certain area, they can go and find land that is already available. It's actually, all you can do is plug and play. If you want to build your factory, you have an option to lease something already existing. You put up your system and start running. Or if you want to have something which is customized, you can build your own factory and run with it. So you go, the terms for accessing that land and all that, and you can be able to do that quickly. We've also been having a program, the Export Processing Zones Scheme, EPZ. That is the closest we have now to that scheme, because around the country we have about 72 EPZs. About 69 of those are private, the others are government. So in those ones you can also come more or less go in and plug and play. But for some of the private ones, maybe the infrastructure and all that may still be a bit of a challenge. So when you do this, we do Dongokundu, Kisumu, Ramu, and all the other planned SECs, and we make sure that they are available with water, with energy and everything. I can actually tell you that the growth of private investment here will be something we've not seen before.
You have talked about a very critical component when it comes to investment, and this is land. And we know for sure that land is a very thorny issue in this country. And when you even look at the ease of doing business rankings by the World Bank, the question of getting land title deeds and documentation, it takes a lot of time, between 45 days to 90 days. How are we going to deal with this?
Good question, O'Brien. Actually, it's true. It used to take on average 73 days, and I think that has been a bit of, if you combine that with the challenge that sometimes you might follow a process and you end up with your land which is contested. Maybe it has a few other claimants. That has been a bit of a problem for us, and it has been affecting investors a lot. But I don't know if you are aware that through the process of improving the investment climate, the Ministry of Lands, together with other stakeholders, have been able to make reforms. And now you can actually, the process should be able to take, if I remember well, it should be 6 days or 12 days from 73. This is already something happening, and you can test it, like transfer of land. Okay. Another area that we are looking at, of course, you see, we have done as a country, it is focused quite a lot on trying to reform the land sector. And by the way, people forget, some countries in Africa, they look at Kenya as a leader in terms of land reforms, because of the ability, your private land, and the transactions can happen, even though there's a bit of handling.
But the problem is that Kenya is not competing with Africa, it's competing with the world.
Absolutely. And I'll just, but it's good to always, even when you're pursuing your own targets, it's always good to see how you're doing relative to your brothers and even outside, so that it gives you the encouragement and the push to proceed. The land, one of the other things for us we want to do now is that because we have opened a one-stop center for the first time. Kenyans are now like a Unduma center, but focusing on the investor services, just on the 14th floor where we are now. We would like to bring actually Ministry of Lands and the NLC, the National Land Commission, jointly to have an office, so that when an investor wants to invest in a big land, they have an agency that can do thorough check on the land and make sure it's not that land which is on a riparian or in a public space, set aside, to make sure that there are minimal regrets when the factories and other developments have been made. So we have some challenges in land. Land is an emotive issue, but we are moving, and as a country we are moving forward. And we have actually, if you look at the Kenya investment policy, which was recently posted by the cabinet, we even actually proposing even more radical reforms in the land sector. So that, for instance, if you are a county and you are a governor, even if you don't have any public land, why can't you set aside part of your development money? You say every year I'll set aside 15% or 20% of the budget to build a land bank, so that you get land that is available, which is clean, no encumbrances, and you don't have to give it to investors free of charge.
Yeah.
You can give it on concessional terms, but even if it's on the market rate, so long as the investors know that it's clean land and they're not going to have any problems, then they'll come and invest there.
Tell me this. It is true, I mean, some progress has been made, in attracting investors into Kenya.
Yeah.
But still, we have also seen a number of investor flights, relocating to other countries. A good case in point is PNG,
Yes.
Reckitt Benckiser, and one of the largest, flower companies in the world, that moved to Ethiopia. When you engage these kind of investors, what do they tell you is their biggest concern?
Well, first off, I'm an economist.
Yeah.
And we know in economics, there will always be entry and exits of business. I think people forget that. Always, even if you take maybe the country with the best environment, there are some countries, there are companies that are exiting, while many others are entering. Because you see, it is the environment, the competitiveness of the environment is increasing all the time. So you might find in a certain, like in Kenya now, again compared to many other countries in the continent, there is more competition in our market than you can get elsewhere, because many companies have come. Now, if as a company you have not been able to reform your production process, cut costs, increase productivity, find ways of innovating how you produce, then sooner or later you might find actually now you lose competitiveness to your competitors, and unless you are able to do this quickly, you might find yourself closing shop.
But that's still being the case.
Yeah.
When you listen to some of these investors, they tell you that Number one, the cost of energy.
Yes.
You know, in Kenya, it's relatively higher, you know, compared to our peers. And I'm talking about Egypt, I'm talking about Ethiopia up here, even Uganda.
Yeah.
They also talk about the cost of transport. You know, it's also a major factor, you know, for them to move out of this country. The cost of labor.
Yes.
You know, Kenya has one of the highest labor costs in Africa. So how then do you deal with such issues and still remain competitive at the end of the day?
Good question, and I think you observed very well. I think traditionally, or for a long time, the main hindrances to our business, and if you ask business, they'll tell you is the cost of power. Before, it was availability and the cost. Availability, reliability, and the cost. Now it's more of cost. It also used to be the cost of logistics. I remember there's a time, maybe there's a World Bank study that indicated that actually was it like 40-60% of the cost of a product for Kenya was logistics. It was I think 40%. And then as you have indicated, so those are the cases. Now the good thing, what we tell them is that, where we sit is one of our tasks is to listen to business people, understand what is really keeping them awake, what is affecting their bottom line, and we make sure the government infrastructure is able to deal with this. So if you look at power, it's a good example to give, because not people. I think people forget. There's a time when we're having a lot of rationing. I think you've noticed that even when we have a drought now, rationing is not something that you see in Kenya as such, because we've been able to diversify, increase, reduce or improve risk management. When there's a time we were relying 73% of all our power was hydro. Now it's about 30% of the amount. You know, the Mbalok is now in geothermal. So now I was surprised to see Ethiopia actually we were saying we are likely to buy a lot of power from hydro. Recently the Hilton didn't have power. I think there was a bit of rationing because they're still quite dependent on hydro. So we've dealt with the reliability and with supply. Supply not fully, because there are many parts of the country now that want power, and the business people keep telling us we want power, but the distribution system has not reached there. And in some of those cases, we are telling investors go and do off-grid investments so that you can supply power there. We also, of course, we still also lose somewhere around the 16% or so of what we generate through leakage. Because the old infrastructure and all that. So this is another area we are telling investors, come and invest in good transmission infrastructure, distribution infrastructure, to be able to increase efficiency. So I was saying that, so we have done that, because you know some of these things you can't solve them overnight.
It's a process.
The target now, and you've seen the power rebate, which has now been gazetted. We are moving as a country to a regime where business people will be able to get power at 7 or even less US cents per kilowatt hour. So we're moving there. On logistics.
And that has been our long-term desire.
Yes. And I think we are moving. We are moving.
We are now at about 11 cents.
Yeah. We used to be 20, sometimes more. So we are moving there. Of course, all of us, we want to get there quickly. But don't forget, for the first time now, we even have surplus power. Sometimes we are now, the capacity that is installed is somewhere in the region of 2,700 megawatts. And we are consuming about 1,800, you know. So, and that's why we want more investors to come now, because there's plenty of electricity.
Very good. I mean, we are talking about, you know, infrastructure. And from where we are to the region's premier airport, JKIA, is about 15 kilometers from here. What do you tell investors when they are stuck in traffic jam, you know, accessing your office from JKIA to this place when they spend about 2.5 hours in the traffic jam? What do you tell them?
Well, it's really terrible. So if they miss a flight, but we advise them to finish a business early and at least factor that in their planning. But you know, one of the deals that was signed in China this year was a private arrangement where a company is going to build
an expressway.
Yes, from JKIA to James Gachoro Road.
Yeah.
So you can see private capital coming in to solve a problem. So I'm saying this to just, and the investors are also, when I speak with some of them, they said, by the way, traffic to an investor is a sign that there's business in that country. You know?
It can also be a sign of lack of planning.
Of course, yes. But
So
I'm looking at the positive side. So I think I will just say, with the bypasses that have been constructed, and all this has been done again in the last couple of years. Now, if you want to go to JKIA, you have several options. You can go take Southern Bypass.
Which are longer routes.
Yes, it's a longer route. But now once we finish, once this Ngong Road route is finished, you know already motoring now from here to around it used to be called, there's a one Nakumat there, somewhere in the middle of Ngong Road. It's very easy. The junction, yeah. Now, once we finish, the road is almost being completed all the way to Karen. It will be very easy that you can actually move very quickly, get Southern Bypass, and there you are. And then with the other highway which is being built. So I think I would say, there are challenges, but the solutions are coming. And they're coming quickly.
You've just talked about the expressway, that has been. And the fact of the matter is that this expressway has been on the card for more than 10 years now.
Yeah.
And when you talk to investors, they'll tell you that one of the challenges that they are facing is land and the cost of relocating businesses, from where they are to elsewhere. Yeah. How are we going to ensure that you as investors, they come, we fast track their entry? How are we going to ensure that we also fast track their investment plans?
So as I said, one way of dealing with the cost of land and the predictability is building big land banks, national government institutions, and also county governments. And it's possible, if you can imagine if you're in a county and you attract a lot of investors, even if you give them a bit of a discount on the land, you'll be able to recover that money in other ways, So it's something that can be done. The second thing is because there are structures being put on place, like models to calculate the compensation value for land, even government is acquiring private land and all that. Once this is now applied in many projects, I think we'll be able to get to a rational level about the land price. I think the situation will be able to ease down a little bit.
As we wind up, what is the future of this country in terms of attracting foreign investment?
Very good question. We know Vision 2030, is a framework that is we are looking at to take us to Canaan. A country, a Kenya with no people living below the poverty line, having income of at least $3,000, happy with their environment, infrastructure, and their politics, all that, mature politics. To be able to reach there, we need at least double-digit rate of economic growth. We will not reach there. We reached 7.1 in 2007. We are now getting closer there. We hope we will start to get double digits soon. Private investment. For us to get to this rate of growth, the monitoring and indicating that we need to have both private and public investment as a share of GDP to be at least 30%. 30%. We are now somewhere around 24 point something percent. Okay, if you combine both the public and the private. So for us, what we are targeting is to see in the near future, at least even before 2030, that private investment, if you public investment is good, but we are seeing it as a facilitator for private investment to open the way for that. And we would like the private investment alone as a share of GDP to get to at least 24% of the GDP. If we can get there, I think then the rate of growth we are looking for will be attained, and we can achieve the vision.
Thank you very much, Dr. for finding time to be with us here on Inside Government.
My pleasure.
Very good.
Yeah.
All the best in your endeavors.
Super. Thanks a lot, and keep capturing business issues more.
Very well.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. You have been watching Inside Government. Tonight we have been focusing on marketing Kenya as an investment destination and what Kenya Investment Authority is doing in this endeavor. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. We'll do this again next Thursday right here on KBC. Until then, good night.